Yes, Illinois is now officially the first state in the United States to outlaw book bans.
Book bans are about censorship, marginalizing people, marginalizing
Captain
ideas
Donut.
and facts. Regimes ban books, not democracies.
Facts.
Today at Harold Washington Library, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed a bill into law cutting off state funding for any Illinois library that tries to ban books. The new law comes as predominantly Republican-led states continue to restrict books.
Now
Some
they can't
consider
get rid of
offensive.
can't get rid of genderqueer now
across the country. Here in
Good
Illinois,
job.
the American Library Association says there were 67 attempts to ban books last year.
You know, it's
alone.
like killing that dude to be away from a hamburger for like 5 minutes.
Here's the thing about it is that when you look at that and people are going to say, I know exactly what they're going to say. They're going to say, is this all y'all have to talk about? That's the same question I got for them.
Right.
Because every single day we get something else thrown at us. Welcome to the 12th day of Pride.
Yeah, I know, right?
Here
and
we
just,
are.
2 weeks ago, then he signed a gun ban. And literally, Chicago, they murder everybody every week. There's more people die. You know, Chicago is one of the top places in the world for murder, and they have a gun ban. So maybe this will have the opposite effect, and they'll
Huge
sign
priority.
the non-book ban, but then those books will actually get banned. You know, so maybe it's like a reverse psychological thing in Illinois or something with the Hamburglar up there, you know.
I doubt that's going to be the case.
Welcome to the Josh Calloway Podcast.
Welcome to the Josh Calloway Podcast. This is Josh Calloway, State Representative in the 10th District of Kentucky. Glad to be here with you with my good friend, Mr. Aaron Wells. How you doing tonight, Aaron?
Hanging in there. This is a better hour to do a podcast.
It is a little better hour. It's late, but not
Still
as
got
late
coffee.
as normal. So, yeah, I got coffee. That'll work out good. I'll get home and not be able to go to sleep, and it'll work out really good. But
Mixes well with your root canal, you know.
yes, absolutely. I used to say that things that I didn't like, that I would rather have a root canal than do them. Now that I've had a root canal, I've got to find something else to refer this to. So we'll see how that works out for me. Maybe I hate to use the kidney stone thing because I've heard how bad that those are. So anyway,
I don't know. There's nothing like tooth pain, so, you know.
I know it, but there is,
you know, probably besides labor for women, we want to clarify
yes,
that, you know.
yes, yeah, and I know that a man having the flu is up there, right? But labor for women, we don't want anybody to think that we're infringing upon women's rights,
Right. And we're definitely not talking about transgender men hooking one of those machines up to simulate labor.
Exactly.
That's not even in the question, you know.
So I just played that video, and this just happened in Illinois today, and there has been a bill that has been signed that would take away funding from libraries or schools if they ban books. And it's kind of funny that they use this word ban as if that this is some type of, and you even hear he used the word regime, saying that regimes ban books. Literally, in the background of this presser that they are having is a display of several different books, but specifically one that's back there that you can plainly see is the book Gender Queer. So they're celebrating. We're going to sign a bill that says you cannot remove Gender Queer from a library where kids go, or from a public school library where kids attend and parents fund. So we can't move it. Now, a lot of people haven't seen the content in some of these books. To be honest with you, I wouldn't care if I never saw the content of any of these books ever again the rest of my life. But I dealt with this back during session when we were looking at Senate Bill 5 and working on the process for parents to be able to remove books from the school system. And I was given packets and sent information from parents and people that had been working in the Jefferson County school system to try to get specifically that book removed. That literally depicts sex acts between young teenage men. So it depicts them, it shows them, it celebrates them, and it is cartoonish, but it's very vivid. It's pornography, no question about it. It's pornography. And they are celebrating that they got a bill passed that says you cannot remove this book from being in front of your kids and your kids being exposed to pornographic material. Yeah. And they wonder why that we keep coming back to these issues, but the fact is that they are after our children. They are after our children. And if you listen to all that he said, it was like an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't watch the whole thing. I couldn't stomach listening to the whole thing, but he goes into, and several other people speak, but he talks about how that children need to be exposed to books that depict people like them.
Right.
And all types of people, he says. That is what they are pushing. And the bill, taxpayer funds, they pay for the schools, they pay for the education that the kids are educated by, they pay for the books that are purchased, and they are not allowed to remove a book from a school or they will lose their funding even if it has pornographic material.
And Illinois has like one school choice kind of avenue that they're trying to shut down, the governor and the legislature. Here on Illinois policy, then it shows that Illinois voters support school choice by a 34-point margin. That's how much they support school choice by. By a 29-point margin, Illinois voters support the state's Investing Kids Tax Credit Scholarship Program. Yeah. Which basically allows low-income students to be able to have access to things besides public school because the public schools are so bad in Chicago, run by the teachers union, Randy Weingarten, Peter Pettigrew, Will Gopher. Then they got, then they're running everything there. So they had to spend more money in order to correct the problem because obviously the public school system is failing them. So they're trying to eliminate school choice, even that for the low-income students. They're trying to eliminate the school choice so that those low-income students can't go to better schools. And then on top of that, then they're signing into law or trying to force everyone to send their children to Illinois public schools. And then on top of that, then they're trying to force their children to have to be exposed to this type of pornographic material. It's unbelievable. So whenever you're talking about a regime, that's what a regime does. Right. Eliminates their ability to educate their children the way that they think is correct and proper, forces them to go to a state-funded school, and then forces their children to read state-funded, material that's pornographic. That's what a regime does. That's why I can't stand the Democrats' absolute butchery of the English language and all language. Everything that they say, they mean the exact opposite. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, and people periodically will send me nice little messages, and emails, and they will try to make the argument that the things that we're talking about, the things that we're fighting against and fighting for, it's not happening in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. It's not happening in Kentucky. Well, number one, go look at the ACLU lawsuit and look at the age of the kids whose parents have signed them on to that lawsuit to ensure that they could have these hormone poisons and things like that would do irreparable harm to their bodies. Look at the ages, okay? And the second thing is that, look at this. This was just put out by the NEA. This is their new guidance. Now, we do know
teachers
that
union, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Jason Glass beat them to the punch because he put some guidance similar to this out. It's not there anymore, but he put this out last year. Mm-hmm. But this just came out. Defending the freedom of our LGBTQ plus students to be themselves. Why are we not defending the freedom for all students?
Right.
Not just to be themselves, but to be good, moral, upstanding citizens and training them to be so. It says our LGBTQ LGBTQ plus students need us to ensure our schools are places where all students are protected and empowered.
Okay, so the protected part makes sense. You don't want kids dying at school, right? You don't want them getting beaten up or anything like that. The empowered part doesn't make any sense.
No.
The education
Where are the
system,
adults?
yeah, the education system isn't a place for kids to be empowered. It's a place for educators to educate, and the education, the instruction is supposed to be the direction of power from the teacher to the student, not the students to be empowered to live sexual lifestyles.
Exactly right.
Anyway.
Well, the context, we all deserve the right to live, work, and thrive, no matter our sexual orientation or gender identities, no exceptions. But today, certain politicians are pushing laws that restrict our freedoms and divide us so they can get and hold on to power at any cost. This is the teachers' union. These are the people that are, quote unquote, protecting our teachers, that are giving the guidance for how teachers teach in the United States of America.
Telling them how to vote.
The NEA, tell them how to vote, tell them how to educate, tell them how to indoctrinate. That is what they are doing, and they put this out. And the thing about this is, Aaron, is that this is not just information, but there will be people and teachers and superintendents that will take this information and they will use this as the guidance for how that they supposedly teach our kids.
Right. I saw a good interview today with James Lindsay and Ben Shapiro. I saw it today, but I think it came out yesterday, like his Sunday special thing. Is today Monday or today's Monday?
Monday. So
it came out on Sunday, and he's written a book called The Marxification of Education. Paulo Freire's, I think that's how you say it, Freire, Critical Marxism and the Theft. Critical Marxism and the Theft of Education. So this kind of has this, this book lays out from the very beginning this man, Paulo Freire, and there's several other people that were involved in this in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. And they literally laid out the blueprint for how all of this was going to get into our schools, into the teachers' unions, into the the government, all this stuff. But in reality, according to what he is saying in this book, then this ideology, this Marxist ideology that just didn't focus as much on economics anymore, it started focusing on culture. Mm-hmm. Then it infiltrated like the departments of education in colleges all across the country, and then they started which people that have been conservative for a long time, but just work and do it. They've kind of known that. They've seen the education system going that way, and the teachers becoming more and more liberal.
Right.
But they literally infiltrated the departments of education, and then started picking and choosing, ideologically grooming certain college students to become kind of their leaders in the primary education, K through 12 education. And then those teachers went in there and slowly started infiltrating more and more and more until now we have a whole system that's just absolutely frothing at the mouth to be able to implement anything woke that they can find.
And I think that
including pornography.
He actually triggered a lot of the left by using that word groomer. He was one of the first ones to put that out there, because a lot of times, most of the time when that word is used, people's mind automatically go to explicit sensuality, those types of things. But he was making the point that there was this indoctrination that was taking place. And so
they call it ideological grooming. So, whenever the left talks about groomers, well, we're not pedophiles. Well, that's because they know how pedophiles groom people. They are very well acquainted with that, and then they're starting to call them minor attracted persons. We don't have to get into all that. But the way a pedophile grooms someone is they take advantage of someone that's not able to compete with them intellectually or to know the danger that they're in. They take someone that is vulnerable, and then they trick them, or they make that person dependent on them for, emotionally or whatever it is, and then they take advantage of them. So that's the same thing that he's talking about in the education system ideologically. So whenever you have a teacher that's, let's say, 30 years old, and his point was in a classroom of 7-year-olds, they are obviously not able to rebut what he is saying.
Right.
If he's saying something that is wrong, they're obviously not able to. It's not the free marketplace of ideas there.
Right.
Right. They are depending on him to educate them, and he has been set up as an authority figure. He or she has been set up as an authority figure. And so whenever they are indoctrinating children, then they are literally grooming them to be the political party that they want them to be. So they're trying to implement things at a young age, not from a a Marxism class, but from math class, from reading class. And he gave an example that they'll give like a math problem. They'll say, well, this family, it's 50 miles from this family's house to the amusement park. They've traveled 30 miles. How many more miles do they have to go? And the teacher will stop, and the 7-year-olds will say, hold on, wait a second, 1 second. How many of y'all like amusement parks? And it's a whole system that they use. They'll relate to the child. Of course, everybody's going to say, yeah, I love amusement parks. And, random person doesn't like roller coasters, but everybody likes cotton candy, likes all the lights, all this stuff. They'll raise their hand and say, yeah, I like amusement parks. And then they'll start interjecting a political thought to them, such as, well, how many of you have been to an amusement park? And then maybe not everybody raises their hand. Well, why hasn't everybody been? You all like amusement parks. Why haven't you all been? And they're just waiting for that opportunity for somebody to say, well, my parents can't afford it. And then they'll start talking about the economy of Marxism, right? Or they'll say, well, I don't have 2 parents to take me to the, and then they'll start talking about the family and how, well, all families are different and you can have 2 moms and 2 dads, or 1 mom and 1 dad, any of those things. So they literally use math where the child should know that they have 30 miles left to the amusement park.
Right.
That's the point, that whenever they graduate from high school, that fact, that information is going to allow them to be successful in jobs. It's going to make them valuable in society, not just to the societal system, but to everybody around them in society. It's going to promote their individuality. Instead of that, then they are forcing them and making them think about something that is going to force them into a collectivist mindset, to become Marxists.
Let me say this real quick before you move on.
Sorry.
Because I know what somebody is going to say because I've heard it so many times. This isn't happening around here. If it's happening anywhere, it's unacceptable.
What I don't understand is, why should we believe that?
Yeah, I agree.
Whenever
with you.
genderqueer is in JCPS schools, why do you believe that? Why am I just going to take your word for it and say, okay, yeah, it's not happening here, whenever they literally have pornography in JCPS schools?
I'll read some books off, some titles here in just a minute that I know for a fact are in the Hardin County public school system. This is, go back here to the NEA, this guidance that came out. They have some books that they recommend, some recommended reading. This was actually recommended for elementary age students. 'Twas the night before Pride. On the night before Pride, one family packs snacks and makes signs as an older sibling shares the importance of the event with the newest member of the family. Now, this is what the National Teachers Union Education Association is recommending for elementary kids. Julian is a mermaid. After seeing 3 women spectacularly dressed up as mermaids, Julian makes his own mermaid costume from Abuela's curtain and potted fern. What will she think of the mess and of Julian the mermaid? Hula warrior. Whoever that is.
Fuanani.
Who doesn't see herself as a Wahine, a girl, or a Cane, a boy,
I don't speak Hawaiian.
is happy to be in the middle and eager to lead a school performance. What are we doing? I mean, these are, look at this. This is their website.
Remember the stories that we used to read, like Aesop's Fables, like the boy who cried wolf?
Yeah.
And it would teach you, hey, don't lie to people, or whenever the wolf comes to eat you, then nobody's going to believe you.
Yeah.
Now they're just turning the wolves loose in the schools. That's exactly what they're doing. They're just turning them loose in the schools. and nobody's there to cry out for them. And if anybody stands up for them, then YouTube censors them, or Facebook censors them, or the media in Kentucky attacks them. You know, the Courier-Journal attacks them. I keep hitting this microphone. The Courier-Journal, the Lexington Herald-Leader, they attack them. If anybody stands up for kids from being indoctrinated with this junk, instead these teachers unions and Randy Weingarten, why aren't they concerned with the low reading and math and science scores in schools and in low-income communities? You would think that they might spend their time trying to figure out a plan to make that better.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, hey, maybe our curriculum's not working. Maybe we need to revisit our curriculum. But no, they are not going to revisit Common Core. I mean, they're going to drive that dead horse into the ground until nobody in this country, 30% only, know how to read and write. Apparently, that's what they're going to do, and do math. That's Common Core math. Whatever.
Well, the thing about it, and
then indoctrinate them.
Yeah,
with all
I'm
this
not
stuff.
going to go through all of these, but if you just look, this is filtered out for all
180
all reading levels. 180 recommendations here of books, and this is the thing, is that we know inside of the larger cities and the more urban areas where they are left leaning or totally left, that they're going to jump on this stuff. But these vendors get built into these systems, and schools end up buying books. And I'm not saying that something sneaks in that they don't know that it comes in. I'm just saying that these unions are pushing this ideology into our school system.
Well, and the system's set up that if they don't get the books that the unions recommend, or they don't get the books that are going to meet the qualifications for the, SEL thing, the Castle program and all that stuff, if they don't get the books that are going to get them the scores that they need to get, then they're going to be defunded by the government.
Yeah.
So the system is literally set up where they put these books in front of the teachers or in front of the superintendents. And if anybody asks any questions, which most of the time they don't, they're just kind of trusting these people to send them the right books or whatever. If anybody asks any questions, then they say, look, if you don't put this book in here, we're going to defund you.
Yeah.
So do what we say. No concern at all for the care of the students. It is literally the hubris of psychotic individuals trying to push sexualization on children. That's exactly what it is. And I understand people, why are you focused on this all the time? I'm going to be honest with you. It is exhausting to focus on this subject all the time. It is not something that I'm looking forward to every day. But nobody else will stand up, so somebody has to. And somebody has to not back down.
The problem is that this is not just a particular program or book. This is a mindset. It's an ideology. And the goal is to get everybody thinking this way, to be accepted of it, to promote it. And you're exactly right. It is absolutely exhausting to continue, but every day we are bombarded with attacks on our children.
Right.
And this is the thing. If there was an actual person or groups of persons, say, that were an enemy of the United States of America, and they had came into the United States and they were hiding out and they were lurking in the shadows and they were only after children, we would definitely be on guard everywhere that we went, and we would protect our children from this type of attack from a physical standpoint.
Well, Joe Biden would let them through the border. But,
well, yeah, but the problem is that this is more than just a physical attack.
Right.
This is ideology. This is mindset. And so it's not something sometimes that you can always physically see with your eye as it's getting ready to happen and see what the devastation is going to be. Right. It's something that you have to be discerning on. You have to understand how the system works, and you have to be willing to be bold to make statements and to point out these types of things, even when it seems as if that you're going overboard or you're making this up. How often in the last 5 years, how many times has so-called quote unquote theories or conspiracy theories
Right.
come out, and it ends up that that's the actual truth that has been suppressed, and people have tried to suppress it by calling it whatever. That's exactly what has happened here. They have tried their best to suppress it, to not let us know what is going on. Out of everything that happened with COVID, thank God, and I mean that from my heart, that some things were exposed, some people woke up, and we have the opportunity to continue to expose this and maybe protect some children. And, you know, I'm back on this again, but I'm appalled when I look at it. This is the guidance for pronouns. Pronouns are words that function in the place of a name instead of saying
teachers union guidance, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
My brother Steve is coming to pick me up in Steve's car, and we're going to Steve's favorite restaurant. A person could say his car, his favorite restaurant. In English, we have two sets of gender pronouns. She, her, hers, he, him, his are pronouns that attach to a particular gender. They actually attach to the only genders, right? He and her, she and him. I mean, that's
and
the
not
only.
just people, animals too. Yeah.
And so they go through and then give us these genders, and then also the subjective, objective, possessive, adjective, possessive pronouns, ze, zim, zir, zirs.
No wonder they can't read.
Zir self.
Like, every time they come across a he or him, they don't know what it's talking about. It's like George Washington. Why isn't he called Zir? You know, Zir across the the Jersey, whatever, into New Jersey.
Aaron, and I know where this goes, but I'd say as a rhetorical question, how in the world did we get here?
Yeah,
how did we get here?
It's been a long game. You know, it's not. Obviously, we know from our perspective the spiritual aspect and the plan of the devil. And whenever we talk about that oppression or that dread, you know, of talking about these things, the thing that overcomes that, the only thing you have to think about to overcome that and to gain the courage is what you were talking about in the ACLU lawsuit. Mm-hmm. Doe family number 1, 12-year-old. Doe family number 2, 15-year-old. Doe family number 3, 10-year-old.
It's not happening in Kentucky, though.
Doe family number 4, 14-year-old.
Right.
This is all in Kentucky. Yeah. Doe family number 5, 16.
That's my point.
Number 6, 13-year-old. Number 7, 9-year-old. These are the people that it's not happening in Kentucky, but it's happening to these people. They are the defendants in Kentucky. Yeah. And so if you don't have the courage, or if you have the dread, I don't know these kids. I don't know, you know, they intentionally make their pronouns ambiguous. They didn't call them Zer or anything like that, but they make their pronouns ambiguous so you know as little about them as possible. But my heart goes out to them because they're surrounded by people that are indoctrinating them and that are chomping at the bit to have their body destroyed by the medical community. Yeah. It's unbelievable. But they start with the pronouns. They started a long time ago with the infiltrating of schools and saying, well, this is not really right about your history, or this is not really right about your science, or whatever it is. They started with evolution. They started with taking the prayer out of the schools. They've just step by step by step brought us to this point, and this is the point they were going to the whole time.
Well, we have an educational crisis in the U.S. and in the state of Kentucky, a learning crisis, a teacher crisis, so many different pieces of it. And this is the thing. We have kids that can't read proficiently. We have kids that can't do math proficiently. And this is what we're giving them tips on. You're at an event, someone left a key for you, but you can't find it. You might ask, where did they leave the key? So we are constantly confusing kids. And we also, on the flip side, are not getting them educated well.
Right.
And I'm saying as a whole,
Right.
not getting them educated well in basic things that they have to have for life to succeed. Mm-hmm. And we're totally, as a society, we are totally missing the mark
Right.
in the education. But I think that they are hitting the bullseye of where they have been trying to go with this from the very beginning.
Yes. This section here where it says tips on using gender neutral pronouns. Whenever it talks about they, them, it's the thing that you were on in the NEA. All of these that they're describing are things that we might say because we haven't seen the mailman, or we haven't seen the person that left the key, and you don't know if it's a he or a her. So you say, where did they leave the key? It's like whenever we talk about the leftists that are wanting to indoctrinate kids, then we say, well, they did this or they say this. That's not because we think that they have multiple personalities and they're a they.
Right.
It's because we're not aware of who they are because we haven't seen them.
Yes.
Because it's readily evident most of the time what they are. The point is that they are taking things that are established, things that help us to relate, things that are very clear. They're taking things that we have done our entire lives and that have proven to educate people over time, and then they're twisting them and saying, well, you've done that. It's just one more step to call Meg a they instead of a she. It's just one more step. It's not really that big of a deal, but it is a big deal.
Yes.
They're fundamentally changing the existence of humanity using pronouns. I mean,
Right.
there is no weapon. There is no established good thing that they will not pervert and use to try to confuse children.
Right. And
bring them
they're
into this cult.
using this point. They're trying to make this point. It's about respect. Now, this is when I was raised, my mom and dad did their best to teach us respect. There's people that I say yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, to, that say, don't call me a sir, you make me feel old. And my response is always, well, if my mom or dad found out that I didn't say yes, sir, or yes, ma'am to you, even now at 44 years old, it probably wouldn't work out very good for me. Right. Because they did try to teach us respect. And so when you're dealing with little children and you say, we're trying to teach you how to be respectful. Mm-hmm. We're trying to teach you how to respect everyone. And then you get everybody in the room based on this to say, hey, my name is this, and I use these pronouns. And then you have children who identify as something else. You're not just teaching them respect, but you're teaching them to lie. Yeah. To call someone by something that they are not. But doing that under the guise of, well, we're trying to teach our children to be respectful. That is not respectful. It is indoctrination. Mm-hmm. It is wrong. And it's a lie.
Right. Yeah. And they have all of this oversensitivity to everything too. So like that last little thing right above where it says it's about respect, mm-hmm. then it says don't over apologize. Don't over apologize if you get something wrong. If you over apologize, then you're making it about your feelings instead of about their gender. And I'm like, there's nothing more confusing than your feelings. The only thing more confusing about your feelings about that whole situation is their gender.
Yeah.
And then their weird pronouns. That's extremely, extremely crazy. There's a bunch of statistics out, and it's, they hide a lot of the things where they're low in statistics mm-hmm. in the education system. You got to dig through this, for hours, it seems like sometimes. But there was one thing here that I saw just on the Kentucky self-reported Department of Education statistics, that their number of students that are in the primary talent pool, which is students qualifying for gifted and talented services, has gone down every year. Around 2017 to 2018, then it was roughly similar. 26,448 for K through 3 and 71,004 through 12. 2017, 2018, 26,000, 27. In 2019, 2020, then the primary talent pool for K through 3 went up a little bit, mm-hmm. and then it bottoms out in 2020. Yeah. When a lot of these initiatives start coming in from the lieutenant governor, that is Lieutenant Governor under Andy Beshear, She starts implementing all these policies in the education system through the, Council on Post-Secondary Education.
Right.
Jason Glass starts implementing all these policies. Instead of these things that are supposed to increase the amount of children that are in the gifted classes, these equity initiatives that are supposed to increase it, instead it craters them.
Yes.
I mean, 4,000 less students, 5,000 less students in K through 3. Well, those kids didn't just leave K through 3. They didn't just drop out of school.
Right.
You're seeing actually a regression, not only a failure of maintaining standards, but also the same kids that were in gifted and talented services, then they're regressing.
Yes.
This is what these woke initiatives do.
Right.
This is what the
Because it becomes the
sexualization
total
of
focus.
The sexualization of children, that's what it does.
Right.
The Marxism of children, that's what it does. It doesn't actually make them smarter. It doesn't advance them. It dumbs them down because they're focused on things that their brain is not equipped to handle, but that overloads their brain with dopamine.
Yeah.
They are literally hijacking their brains.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying literally in a figurative sense. I'm saying it in a medical sense. They are hijacking their brains and making them dumber at the same time.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
unbelievable.
here's the symbols of diversity and inclusivity. Displaying a Black Lives Matter, Dreamers, or a pride flag or poster is a great way to show your support for students and to let them know that your classroom will be a safe and welcoming space. So why do we need, where does Black Lives Matter even come in for this guidance that's about LGBTQAI / plus minus 2S, whatever else that goes with it?
Totem pole.
Where does this come from? And I understand a little bit, because if people could read the emails that I get,
Right.
the fan mail from the people that really enjoy us talking about these issues, a lot of times they call me a racist, bigot, homophobe. It will be in that order: you racist, bigot, homophobe.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is this, is that these ideas, the Black Lives Matter, the Dreamers, the pride flag, these types of things. And by the way, I have had parents in Breckenridge County that have reached out to me and said there absolutely should be no case whatsoever that a pride flag should be allowed to be placed on a public school property or inside of a classroom.
Yeah.
House Bill 173 that I filed this past session that I will pull out, and I will file again and try to advance the pieces of it, dealt with this particular issue. Because there again, we don't know, our history is being erased, right? We want to erase God out of our history. We want to erase our actual forefathers and what they stood for and the freedom and the liberty that they promoted from our history. So we forget about that, but we want to tell them and teach them about these other ideas of diversity and inclusivity instead of just teaching who we are, where we came from. Why are we constantly segregating people out and separating people out? That's exactly what this does. Yeah. So it's not just indoctrination, but I would say that they are absolutely the racists. They're the ones that are constantly taking and separating groups of people out into little groups and then saying, well, it's our diversity that makes us great and who we are. No, it's not. It's our unity.
Right. It was sickening to me to see over the past week people talk about Abraham Lincoln and try to act like he's a pedophile or that he's a sodomite, which has been debunked over and over. They're not going to believe that because they want everybody to be a sodomite. They want to pretend like everybody's in their group, But Abraham Lincoln, they have trashed for the past 4 years with BLM. And he's the one who wrote the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah.
He's the one who literally committed again, not literally in a figurative sense, in an actual sense, he committed the United States military to the freeing of the slaves by going to war against the states that would not free their slaves.
Yeah.
That's what, he's not a racist. The guy's not a racist. According to their standard, then Abraham Lincoln's a racist. You know, so we should also listen to these people about him being a sodomite? Are you serious right now? We're supposed to listen to Joe Biden, you know, talk about racism whenever he hangs in the middle the Pride Progress flag, which doesn't just represent the, you know, I don't know what all the rainbow colors represent, but also these Black Lives Matter colors, which I guess is bankrupt now because they took all the money and, you know, spent it.
Exactly.
But also the transgender stuff. They have made this the state religion of the United States of America.
That's exactly right.
And here's one more thing. All of this argument about it's not happening here, it's not happening in our schools. Look at that on the White House.
Right.
That's
the
our
people's
federal
house. That's our
government.
house.
That's our federal government
that's
hanging that and promoting that and saying this is the main thing.
This is what he put out with I'm sure President Biden didn't put it out. He probably has no clue that it actually went out. But somebody from his staff put out today, this was yesterday, today, the people's house, your house, sends a clear message to the country and to the world. America is a nation of pride. Mm-hmm. That's what he put out. So I put out this statement. Just a simple Bible verse, Proverbs 16:18. Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall, which is simple truth.
Also historically accurate.
Exactly right. That's exactly what the Bible says. Mm-hmm. I had people message me and told me to do things that I can't do and shouldn't do to myself, and I just all types of they literally, this is the truth. Mm-hmm. Right? This is the truth. This is pulled directly from the Bible.
Right.
It's where we garner all of our foundational truth. Mm-hmm. And many people have come to the place that they totally, literally despise the truth.
Right.
They despise the truth. And that is, the point you made is exactly right. This is our house. It's the people's house. Mm-hmm. The president, the sitting president of the United States of America says, today the people's house, your house, sends a clear message to the country and to the world. America is a nation of pride, and puts the pride flag right between two American flags right on the Capitol and displays it for the world, and says that we should be celebrating transgenderism or something. I couldn't really understand.
As Commander-in-Chief, I was proud to have ended the ban on transgender Americans. Transgender Americans.
That is why we are back here again for the fourth week in a row.
It's literally on the White House.
It is
what?
Every day, everywhere that we turn.
Somebody made a good point today and said, if the Vatican flag were hanging up there, we would say that we have had a coup. Mm-hmm. Because Joe Biden's a Catholic. If he were to hang the Vatican flag up in the center and the United States flag and stand in front of a big board with the Vatican all over the back, then we would say the Catholics have taken over the country. The Pope is literally running the country. We would say there's a coup.
Right.
If the Christian flag were up there, everyone would melt down, absolutely melt down. If you were to put up the flag of Russia or the flag of China, or you were to put up another ideological flag, you know, the hammer and sickle or a Nazi flag, then we would say there has been a coup. The people that are not a part of this country have taken over the country. What are we supposed to think with this?
Right.
Who is in control? Who is running the show? Obviously, Joe Biden's not running the show. Whoever told him to hang this flag is who's running the show. So don't tell me that it's not happening here when every young child in this state, if they turn on their television tonight, I'm sure this is going to be one of the top stories.
Yes.
They're going to look up there and see that hanging on the White House and think, oh, that's what our country's about, yes. LGBTQIA.
And it has taken on...
Two-spirit totem pole.
It has taken on religious characteristics.
Yes.
And it has become a religion. That's the reason why that it's taken on religious characteristics.
And whenever you think about the people that, whenever you try to pass any legislation that prevents them from grooming children, again, ideologically, sexually, if they don't like the sexual term, then, stop putting the pedophiles in the schools. Okay. So, I'm not saying all teachers are pedophiles. I'm saying stop putting those people in those. I'm not talking about as teachers.
Let me say
go
this.
read Libs of TikTok.
Let me say
go
this.
Watch
there
it.
are teachers that came to us during session, and they begged us to help them with these issues.
Yes.
And I will tell you that there are teachers I know that promote this and that are a part of the system that is going on. But there are a lot of teachers in the system that are scared to speak up because they know the retribution that will come if you speak up or you speak out against these issues.
Right.
And so you're exactly right. Don't put them in there. We know that there's been a plan to get him in there. We've seen that. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to give him any credence at all. But he's constantly has something to say about me, about our podcast, about how hateful and bigoted we are and all those types of things. But those people were placed in the school system, and there are parents and there are teachers that have seen it happen, and they wanted to stop. There have been some that have even spoke out about it. One particular in Jefferson County that absolutely, as soon as he did, they came after him and and retaliated against him for just trying to put a stop to some of it going on.
Yeah.
Now, this is where this leads, okay? So we know that California has been way ahead when it comes to this mindset for years. San Francisco has had has pushed this ideology years, decades ago, and a lot of it has grown from California. But we have seen what has happened in California move across to states across the move into states across the U.S. This just was this past week in California. Right. There's a bill that has been filed that would charge parents who don't affirm transgenderism with child abuse. So this is basically what the ad says. An updated bill in California has introduced the inclusion of affirming a child's sexual transition as a requirement for parental responsibility and child welfare. This means that failing to affirm transgenderism for a child will be considered abusive, according to the proposed California State Family Code. If you go on to read about it, one thing it does is it waits. If you have a parent that is not willing to affirm and there is a split parent situation for custody, it actually waits to the other parent that's willing to affirm. They will use this to remove kids from homes where they are not affirmed, and the state themselves will take up raising and producing the ideology in these children that how they desire for them to think, and they will continue this pathway with these kids instead of somebody coming in speaking the truth, somebody coming in and helping these children that have become depressed and have mental health issues and their spiritual issues and things that are going on. Instead of us helping them with the truth, we're going to take them from the parent if they don't affirm it.
It's bad enough in a custody situation. Let's say you're a dad, I'm a dad. If we were in a custody situation in California, it's bad enough that the mother in that situation would try to trans the child. How the dad must feel knowing that his child in California has no barrier from having gender mutilation surgeries, from having, from having hormone therapies, from having puberty blockers that's going to destroy their child. It's bad enough that that dad is going to have to know that there's nothing that he can do to protect his child, to stop his child from being absolutely destroyed by that state and by that community. On top of that, they're going to put him in jail.
Yeah.
On top of that, they're going to say, yeah, you're going to go right in jail because you're the one that's wrong. I mean, how
it's already
messed
happened.
up.
Already happened in Canada, so it's it's already taken place.
Yeah.
And there was an article that came out today, I believe it was, that I saw it today, that in Wisconsin that there is a county or a city, I can't remember which, that has written a county or a city ordinance to make them a sanctuary area
yes. Yeah,
for a trans child. So if they wanted to have transgender surgery or to be affirmed, that they actually they could come there and it would be a safe haven for them in that area.
So
Again,
one more thing. Let's go ahead and just forget that argument about this is a decision that children are going to make with their parents, and it's going to be parental rights and all of this stuff. It's parental rights until the parent says, no, you can't trans my child. Mm-hmm. And then the parents don't have any rights anymore. That's not parental rights.
No.
That's a regime like Governor Hamburger was talking about. They literally want a regime that they get to control and do with your children what they want to. Like what Joe Biden said. All of your children are my children, or whatever he said, except for Hunter Biden's child that he doesn't want to claim.
I'm going to claim that
not
one.
Mine. Not my child. That one belongs to China or somewhere.
Exactly.
You know? But they are literally wanting to rip your children from you and do with them what they want. Indoctrinate them, convince them to mutilate their body, and if you don't like it, they're going to do it anyway and then put you in jail.
Different subject, but they might, once the child gets old enough that they could form an LLC so that they could launder money into
if Ukraine pays $5 million to the child,
they might pick it up.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. Again, here we are, absolutely worn out.
Yeah.
Constantly addressing this issue. And I get it. We do want to move on. Mm-hmm. But we are not going to move on until we win this battle.
Right.
And we have seen some things happen in the last year that has been encouraging to see take place. We saw what happened with media, how that there has been some people that have bought pieces of the media that are pushing back against censorship, so on and so forth. We have seen some things happen that have allowed the truth to advance, but every time that we advance the truth a little bit, more and more deception gets poured on, and we're constantly going to have to be fighting this battle until we actually end the war. And I understand that it may not end until Jesus comes back, but that does not change our marching orders to stand for the truth, to do what is right, and to push back and protect the minds and the hearts and the bodies of our children. Now, with that being said, I have people constantly, when you talk about the grooming aspect of this and why would adults want to put pornography in front of kids? Mm-hmm. I think that's a great question that needs to be answered.
Yeah.
Why would adults want to put pornography in front of children?
Yeah.
Why? What is in their mind? What are they after? What are they trying to do? Okay, that's a good question. But when I make statements like that, or I put statements like that out in the media or social media, I'll have people that will come back and they'll send me an article of some Catholic priest that got accused or maybe actually went to trial and got convicted of child abuse. Mm-hmm. To the fullest extent of the law, do everything you can to that person.
Agree.
If an individual sexually, physically abuses a child, and we want to pass a law to make that to enact the death penalty, I'm on board.
Yep.
I'm on board.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's abusing a child, if they are sexually trying to set up a child, if you had an individual that was caught, that mm-hmm. was online and was a predator and was trying to get a child to meet up with them somewhere, and you catch them, do everything you can within the law to prosecute those people and put them away.
Right.
I'm saying that.
Yep.
I'm saying if it's a Baptist preacher, if it's a Catholic priest, if it's a youth pastor, if it's a music director, if it's just, some Joe Blow guy that's on the side, it doesn't matter who it is. And that's what I don't understand. If you want to say, oh, well, what about this Catholic priest? Well, what about them? Prosecute them.
Yeah.
Put them away.
Right.
Do whatever we can do to get them off the street and keep them away from kids. Yeah. I'm good with all of that. Right. But I feel the same way about somebody that would get online and would try to coax a child in to do something that would abuse them.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about people that want to take and put pornography in front of kids. If somebody, you made this illustration before, if somebody was sitting on a park bench and you had your kid at the park and they were motioning for your kid to come over and they're like, come here, I got something pornographic I want to show you. How would you feel about that?
Right.
What would you do? I know as a dad how I would feel about it and what I would do about it.
Right.
We would address it immediately.
Yeah.
We would negate the problem. Right. Take that however you want to take it. We would negate the problem.
Right.
That's what's going on in these libraries, in some of these school systems. The same thing is happening. And I feel the exact same way. I feel the same rage that I would feel if they tried to coax them off into a corner at the park or behind a tree, as when they walk into a library and a librarian says, here, check this book out.
Right.
I feel the exact same way, and I think we ought to treat it the same way.
It's also like the dumbest argument in the world to be like, yeah, you can't say anything about people that want to sexualize children here because they're sexualize them in the Catholic Church. Like, what is the logical end of that argument? You know, what's the logical end? You can't say anything, so let our people sexualize the children in the education system too, because they're doing it in the Catholic Church. That's not the argument.
No, that's not even an argument.
The argument is prosecute them both.
Right.
You know, your argument is letting everybody sexualize the children. Apparently, I don't know, because it's like, and we can get into the Trump indictment, I don't know. But if you're going to call one a crime, the other one has to be a crime. Right. You can't separate them.
There's only one thing to do. Eliminate the threat.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do. And we have to look at the root of the problem, and we have to attack it from there. We understand that we're in a spiritual war, and at the very root that we do spiritual war with spiritual weapons. It's prayer, it's truth. It is the need for revival in our country. So, and I get that, and I'm not saying that we do as well as we should in those areas. I'm just saying we know that that's the foundation of it. The other part of it is to engage in our society, to engage in legislation, to engage in exposing the enemy and in exposing what is going on. And when you do that, there's always pushback.
Do you remember that show? There was like a show with was his name Chris Hansen, To Catch a Predator?
Yes.
You know that a lot of those people got out of jail because they called it entrapment. You know, the people that were on his show?
Yeah.
Like he literally did this because of something that happened to his son. Is that correct? Or one of his children? Is that why he got involved in this?
I think that's right.
I'm not positive about that.
I remember right.
But they would literally be messaging someone that they thought was a child and then go to meet up with them and have pizza or something like that. And they structured the laws in this country, the ACLU and people like that are supposedly defending children, structured the law so that, you know, and had judges pass things and argued in court so that these people get to walk out on the street free because they said that it's a technicality that they were entrapped. Well, they wouldn't have actually done that. So first of all, you have that where the ACLU has consistently fought to lower the punishment for child predators. First of all, so don't give me some kind of moral argument about how you're strong against child abuse or child predators, because you're not. The ACLU is not. All right. Second of all, then any accusation that is made against a Catholic priest or against a Baptist preacher, or any of those things, is automatically viewed as true. They should be thrown under the bus, and we agree with that. You know, but there's no room there to let the legal process play out. So on one side, you have people that are literally caught messaging people that they think are children, intending to do things to them that are terrible. On the other side, you have accusations, sometimes from people that are 30 or 40 years later, and there's no question. They're not questioning that at all. Yeah. It shows you what side they're on.
That's exactly right.
They will take anybody's side that is horrible to children, as long as it fits their agenda.
So let me ask you this question. Okay. Here, this is a book in Hardin County Schools in Kentucky. All right. It's a book called, it's in the library. It's called Triangles. This is a summary of the book. 3 women with different relationship statuses discover more about themselves while having sexual relationships with mutual acquaintances. That's what the book's about. It's got sexually obscene activities. It has sexual nudity in it, profanity in it, alcohol abuse, drug use, controversial religious commentaries, alternate sexualities. That's what this book is about. Okay, it's written by Ellen Hopkins. It has all types of filth in it about sexuality, about very graphic things about sexuality, and this is in Hardin County school system. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is my question: who could normalize that, and how would someone normalize that as being okay? Yeah. Help me understand. And I think that, number one, I know that I'm on the side of right. Yeah. But I believe that I am on the side of the parents with this issue. Yeah. That if they knew and they know that this is going on, that they will engage and they will fight and do. And we're already seeing it happen. We're seeing parents that are beginning to push back. They're using the process of Senate Bill 5 that's not strong enough, and we need to strengthen it. But they're using that process. But we have to make sure that the truth is exposed and let them know that it's there. Right. We have to have a legal process that allows us to address it. But to just back off and to just say, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You know, it's a kid's got to learn these things at some point in life. And so, no, that is not acceptable to me as a parent. Right. That's not acceptable to me as a Christian. That's not acceptable to me as an American. Right. It's not acceptable.
No. That the flag hanging on the White House, I don't care how open-minded you are. That's not American.
Right.
That is a government-sponsored cult. Whenever you think about American cults throughout, the past 200 years or whatever, how did they form their cult? They cut all the information off from the outside. Anybody that disagrees with them, they cut it off, right? That's exactly what the education system's doing, the media is doing, the liberal left is doing. They cut off any kind of information that would contradict what they have to say. Second of all, they start with children, indoctrinating them. And they always indoctrinate them in a sexualized manner. That's why the lead cult person has like 15 wives that, half of them are under 18 years old. Mm-hmm. That is always a part of it because it messes a child's mind up so much that they become completely dependent on the person that is their cult leader.
Right.
It does something to their brain that is almost cannot be repaired. Mm-hmm. That's why these books are there. They are creating a cult following.
Yes.
They're isolating them. If you say anything about it, they will destroy you to keep you from even offering an alternative mindset to those children. And then they indoctrinate them. They make them dependent on them by destroying their brain with this information. And then they're a cult. Then they hang the flag up on the White House, and Joe Biden's, the new cult leader. I mean, a very terrible cult leader.
Here's the thing.
Hair sniffing.
That I understand this is not the end-all, be-all, but I think it's a great time to bring up two points. The first point is that in November of this year, we got a governor's election. The second point is in November of next year, we got a presidential election. Right. And we have to make sure if you care about these issues, political leaders cannot fix everything, but there is no question that these issues have been expedited since Andy Beshear became the governor of Kentucky and since Joe Biden became the president of the United States. Yep. You look at what has happened. We pointed out in the last podcast that we did the picture that Andy Beshear had done with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, the go and send some more or whatever, that he and you don't see him come out and say anything about it because he cannot. Right. Because he supports that LGBTQAI plus agenda. Mm-hmm. He supports it. He has to. He supports the mindset. Yeah. He supports the indoctrination part of it. He supports it. And so I'm not saying that Daniel Cameron is the end-all, be-all, but I will tell you this. that the way that he is aligned with truth in regard to this issue, that he will appoint people and recommend people for positions such as with the school board, the
Board of Education.
the Board of Education and the Commissioner of Education, those types of positions. And what he needs to do, and I don't know, I doubt he'll ever watch this, but I will tell him this personally. What he needs to do, he needs to appoint somebody and recommend somebody for that position that will absolutely clean house, that will go into the system and will make sure that our kids are being educated.
Right.
And that's it. Educated on foundational principles that we always used to teach, that have always worked, and that have produced children that can think for themselves but have a sense of morality about them because they have not been indoctrinated since they were children. So we need that to happen. And then we've got this primary that's coming up with the presidential election. And, we just seen in the last week where former President Trump has been indicted on charges
By the DOJ.
by Biden's Department of Justice.
Right.
So you have a sitting president who has indicted a former president who is his arch rival as president of the United States of America. We are in a mess.
Yeah.
And we need people to engage in the process, to take a stand on truth, on what is right, and to speak up, speak out. People have been so passive so long that we're dealing with things that it does look like sometimes when we deal with this issue and we talk about it, and and every day we're bombarded with something else, and we ask ourselves the question sometimes, is this a winnable battle? Yeah. Is this something that we can actually fix? If people give up and they do not continue in the fight, we will lose this battle.
Right.
I'm not sure that we can turn it around. I just know that I have a desire in my heart to fight as hard as I can and to stand as strong as I can. And I know this, that the people of Kentucky that are conservative, that have a moral sense about them, they feel the same way.
Yep.
And if we can do nothing but inform people and give people courage to take a stand, then however many late nights that we crawl in this room and we get in front of a microphone and we do some research and we talk through these issues,
right,
it will be no price at all to pay.
Yeah.
If we can see children's hearts and minds protected.
Right. And I wanted to mention one thing too, and I don't know, we could get into Trump indictment, all kinds of stuff, but I wanted to mention one thing just kind of in passing. Acting like that we're in the minority, nobody believes like we do, and that pressure that the legislators feel to be like, you don't know what you're talking about, you're in the minority, we're in the majority, we do know what we're talking about. There's a story here on Fox News that says the number of congregations departing the United Methodist Church exceeded 5,000 last week as the second largest Protestant denomination in the U.S. continues to fracture over theological disagreements, mostly pertaining to human sexuality. The number of churches that have...
Not people, it's actual congregations. Yeah.
Yes. The number of churches that have been given the green light by their annual conferences to disaffiliate increased from approximately 4,600 early last week to 5,321 as of Friday, according to News. They've been approved to disaffiliate 2,000 congregations in 2022 and more than 3,000 this year. Now, and I've talked to several people in this community and in the community where our business is, they all have issues like this going on. But there are thousands and thousands and millions of people that oppose this radical ideology, that oppose this radical government-funded cult, government-approved cult. There are millions that oppose it. YouTube is censoring them. Facebook is censoring them. The government's going after them. The IRS is going after them. The media hates them. They censor them.
Yeah.
But underneath all of it, then it is they are in the minority.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't want to admit it. The other thing is that they are causing these churches that want to disaffiliate, even though this radical ideology has taken over their denomination and forced all of this on them,
Mm-hmm.
then they're forcing all these churches that are disaffiliating to pay them giant sums of money.
Right.
Big surprise. Another big liberal social justice movement is all about taking money from people that have established something.
Yes.
And established something for hundreds of years. And they're going to come in and say, no, you got to do it our way or you're a bigot. And then whenever you leave, you better give us some money because they can't make money themselves.
Right.
This is the exact same thing that has happened with BLM, that has happened with all kinds of, social justice groups. They make no meaningful change.
Mm-hmm.
They infiltrate organizations that have been established through the hard work and the sacrifice of others. They put their big old banner up there or their pride flag or their pride progress. That White House that is built there, the men who built that with their hands and the founding fathers that first took up residence there would literally start a war over that flag being hung there.
Yes.
They hang their flag up where others have sacrificed and labored to provide something of stability, not only for our country or for the state, but for the entire world. They hang it up there, and then they just take the money and run.
Joe Biden looked at the crowd that he was speaking to when they had their big rally, and he said, I am looking at bravery unlike I haven't seen in recent times. Forget about the people that died so that a flag could be hung there.
I tell you who is probably the bravest person in the world is whoever puts on Joe Biden's diaper every day. That dude has to be like the bravest person in the world because that all of the mess that's got to be around there and the mess that comes out of his mouth, it's terrible.
It's unreal. And they cover for him constantly, but that is the way they think. They think this is bravery.
Yeah.
The bravery comes by the people that are willing to not be run over top of with these types of ideas.
Yeah.
When you have a man that says, you know what, I don't believe like that, and I'm not going to put that jersey on and go out there and skate around before the game starts.
Right.
That's bravery.
Yeah.
Because look at what happens. Look at what happens when you choose to do that. People whose businesses are being attacked and destroyed, people whose lives are being destroyed because that you think different than they think. Mm-hmm. And there is all you have to do. All you have to do is be silent and go along.
Yep.
And you're part of them.
Yep.
But when you speak up and you speak out, this is what it does. It draws lines. Mm-hmm. I said it from the very beginning when we started this session, when we said that we was going to address the transgender surgery issue and we were going to address parental rights. I said this will be defining moments for the Republican caucus in the state of Kentucky. It absolutely was.
Right.
It was very defining, very revealing to see where people were. And unfortunately, we've had a generation of especially with white males who every time they have opened their mouth in public for the last 10 or 12 years, they've been punched in the face and told to get back in the corner, and they have taken on this passiveness.
Right.
And I'm saying that if we continue to do that, if all men, dads, husbands, fathers, if men that know the truth and know what is right continue to be silent on what is right and speak the truth and disagree with what is being pushed upon them, if they continue that, it gets to a point of no return.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that any man in his right mind would want to live with the consequences of knowing that you could have made a difference.
Right.
And having remained silent and seeing what happens. When you think about biblical illustrations such as Sodom and Gomorrah, when you think about, and I know people don't like you making reference to that, it's truth. It's truth. When you look at the outcome of being silent, they'll let you do whatever you want to do.
Right.
You can be popular.
Be successful.
You can be successful. You can water your cows at their trough.
Right.
They're good with it. Mm-hmm. But when you speak up and you say the truth, immediately you become the enemy.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that, men, we need you.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
Yeah.
And I know there are men standing. I'm just trying to speak to those that are passive,
Go to your school board
that
meetings,
are quiet. Yeah. Go to your school board meetings.
Investigate your libraries.
Find out your children are being taught. Look in their libraries and see what they're being exposed to. Mm-hmm. Use it, and it takes effort. Mm-hmm. I get it. It takes time. It takes effort,
and it's exhausting.
And it is exhausting.
But it's a battle. Battles are always exhausting.
Right. That's exactly right.
Battles are never easy.
Will wear you out, but it's all about victory.
Yep.
And when I say victory is not my idea won over somebody else's idea. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about children keep their innocence.
Right.
I'm talking about morality is preserved, and society can sustain itself.
Right.
There's no other way that it can sustain itself. I made this statement that when someone, you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the results of ignoring reality. Yeah. And you could look at that in several different aspects. There's only one type of relationship that produces offspring. Only one. Yeah. You can ignore that reality, but you can't ignore the results of ignoring that, because you will see a decline in population, right? Yeah. So truth, fact, reality those are things that we need men. We need men to engage on. My wife said something to me the other day. She said there are a lot of people concerned about what is going on in our nation, but I think a lot of people don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. These are things you can do. Mm-hmm. You can speak the truth. You can not back down. You can go to a school board meeting. You can run for a school board position. Mm-hmm. You can engage in your child's education. You can find out what's going on. You can be involved in their life. Those are things that you can do. You can teach them what morality is.
You can vote for Daniel Cameron.
Yes, vote for Daniel Cameron. Vote for whoever the Republican nominee is going to be. Hopefully we get a good nominee. Right now it looks like that it would be Trump, unless something crazy happens with this lawsuit, and who knows what's going to happen. But this is what you can do, and it does take effort. Mm-hmm. You're a dad. You have children.
Right.
And it's really easy. It would be easy. And a lot of dads have done this. I work. I do my thing at work every day. I pay for a place for them to live. I've done my job.
Yeah.
Just getting them into this world is only the beginning.
Right.
We are not just pro-life. We are pro-living.
Yeah.
We're not just trying to get them into this world and protect them from being murdered before they're brought into this world. But once they get here, we have responsibilities to engage in their life and to be a part. And if I could encourage people to do anything, it would be to engage in your child's life. Mm-hmm. Find out what is going on. Understand that there is an attack that you may not be able to see. Mm-hmm. But I promise you, if you'll go looking, you'll find the enemy.
And you can, I know social media. I don't have social media. I have a YouTube, thing or whatever. But you can go like videos from conservative people that are talking, not just this video, but it would be great if you did, because, there's a certain group of people that target this podcast in an effort to get it shut down before it can get rolling. And the reason that they do that is not only because whenever you speak, it draws lines, it also shines a light into the darkness.
Right.
It shines a light on what they're doing. And the reality is that if we are successful in bringing to light all of the things that are going on behind the scenes, then the people that they have indoctrinated, that the left has indoctrinated, they will turn against them because they've lied to them. They've allowed their bodies to be mutilated. They've allowed their bodies to be irreparably harmed by puberty blockers and hormone therapy. They will turn on them. So they have to silence us for their own self-preservation. They have to keep the pornographic books in school for their own self-preservation. All of their reputation, they've staked it all on this.
Right.
And all you have to do to fight against them is speak up and don't be silent.
Yes.
Because it shines a light on who they
That's
are. Tell
right.
your children. Tell whoever else that's around. Be a father. Be a husband. Teach your family the right way. Lead them the right way. And don't just say, well, I'm just going to, it's going to be us four no more. We're going to do our thing and everybody else can do their thing. Be bold. Because they are bold. They are bold for wickedness. They are bold for horrific crimes against children.
Why would they even care for you to know? Why do they care for you to know what's going on?
Yeah. Why are they hiding it?
Why are they hiding it? Why are they pushing
Why are they
back?
lying?
And all of you're exactly right. It shines the light, and that sunshine, when it comes in, it can sanitize, but most importantly, it points out, it illuminates
Right.
what is going on,
Yeah.
and they hate it, but it is vital. It is vital to our children. It is vital to the future of our society.
Yeah.
It's vitally important. And we have been censored already by YouTube. They have censored us because of hateful content.
Yeah. It's a group of people that literally just go on and hit the dislike button or report the podcast, and YouTube. I mean, we're not like, a massive channel, so it's not like YouTube is going through and watching our whole thing, They're just taking this. So any type of engagement in a positive direction around this podcast helps, And yes, if you like the video, then you're going to get on YouTube's little list or whatever, and they're going to watch what you like and all this, and they're just going to start. Do it anyway. Stand up against those idiots. What are they going to do? Are they going to look at the 5,000 congregations that have left the United Methodist Church and be like, "Oh no, this is a fringe group"?
Yeah,
they're going to say that, but they know just as well as you do that it's not.
That's right. And we're on Rumble as well, so you can go there and find us when we put the videos out. No matter what form that we put them out on, make sure that you share them, get the truth out. And let me say this. And I don't mean this with any arrogancy at all. I just mean this with passion. We're just getting started.
Right. Yeah.
We are just getting started with what we're doing. The goal is to be able to have an outreach that the truth can get out and that people can be mobilized on a short notice to take a stand on truth and on what is right. Yeah. We'll have legislation coming up. I will be running again next year. Doesn't mean that I get reelected. I've had plenty of people tell me.
People on Twitter have said you are going to lose.
They're going to primary me.
You have to believe Twitter.
Or I don't see any of them primarying me. Maybe one or two of them that are actually Republicans that would primary me, but they shouldn't be Republicans because of the way they think and the way that they push back on the truth. In that sense, I guess is my point. But I don't know what'll happen.
Yeah. So what's their message going to be? Hey, vote for me. I'm a Republican, but I want all of your kids to be transed. Is that their message?
I don't know.
I want to pump your kids full of hormone.
What the message would
therapy.
be?
What's the message? Yeah.
The point is, we're just getting started with this, and the goal is to build this to a point that the truth can get out, no matter what happens. No matter how hard they try to silence the truth, we're going to keep speaking the truth. We're going to keep shining the light. And we have tons of issues that we will cover over the next several months. Policy things that I want to talk about, budget issues that I think are important that we cover. We have the elections coming up. There's a lot that is going on in news cycle. It's funny because somebody pulled a news cycle, I guess, a piece of the news cycle from 2 years ago, right? And put it out there this week about me, trying to force me to respond to something that was 2 years ago. And I'm thinking, hardly anything lasts in the news media more than 24 hours, let alone 24 months. So, but we want to keep putting the truth out there. We have plenty that we will cover. These are things that are at hand right now. We're right in the middle of Pride Month. It's getting pushed in our face every single day. We are seeing these videos come out of parades that are happening across the U.S. with absolute filth and perversion going on in front of kids. And so I'm asking myself, why would somebody do this? And then why would a parent expose their child to this?
Right.
Those are things that are so concerning to me as a believer, as a dad, as an American, as a Kentuckian.
Right.
These things are important. We'll be discussing plenty of issues over the next several months, but we're just getting started. We need your help sharing the word. We need your help getting the word out to people about this podcast, and then the pieces of truth that we give to make sure that you're talking about those things with your friends and your neighbors. Get engaged, get involved, be a family. And again, the norms are under attack. What is natural and what is normal is under attack. And we need as much normalcy as we can have in this generation, in this day and hour in which we live. So we invite you to continue to listen, to share, to like, to spread the word. Thank you for listening, and God bless. Thank you for watching the Josh Calloway podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to get as much information out as we can about what is going on in our state, in our communities, and across the country. If you will share, like, and subscribe to this podcast, you could be notified as soon as a new one comes out. Tell your friends and your family about it, because we want people to be informed and engaged in protecting and promoting the truth. Thank you, and God bless.